Welcome back. The mystery behind the world's best image generation model, Nano-Banana, is finally solved. Google just released Gemini 2.5 Image Flash, and it seems that's the one. Stay tuned for this story, the latest AI news, and our product update.
I'm Giorgio Zinaro.
I'm Ivan Peña, and this is Bootstrap for Cash. Good morning, Giorgio. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. Just have a bit of a sore throat, so sorry about that.
You don't sound like that, actually. You sound normal.
Oh, that's lucky then. I was a bit shouting the other day out on the water, so I guess that's why.
Letting out your Italian spirit, right?
Yes.
So today we are back to our AI news update. And last week's we had this evolution of coding episodes. We hope you enjoy them. And yeah, now we are back with all these telenovelas and everything that is going around with AI lately. And the first one is OpenAI. They released a new tier for ChatGPT, ChatGPT Go, but it's only available in India. But it seems that there are plans to do it worldwide. And what we know already is that it's going to cost around $5 per month, which is quite nice. I'm actually thinking about paying for it, Giorgio.
Wait, I was going to ask that. When is your next trip to India scheduled? After your Colombian YouTube account.
Yes. And I think I'm willing to pay $5. And in any case, I think this is not going to save any money if I go to India, because according to what I've seen, they are following the same pricing for both countries, so our country and their country. So Basically, the Pro account is around $20, also in India. And so I think I wouldn't save any money, to be honest. So probably not going to India just because of that. But yeah, basically, they are extending the use of free tier on ChatGPT. And the cool thing is that you can use custom GPTs, which is probably one of the most interesting features from ChatGPT, right? That you can create your own GPT and use your own system prompt, and then the GPT will act according to what you specify there. And this is quite powerful. You already have this with Gemini. They call it GEMS. And actually, this new feature from Gemini called Storybook, which is basically creating books for children. It's quite nice. If you didn't try, go and try. I will leave in the description the post from LinkedIn that we posted a week ago or so, doing an analysis of this new feature. But basically, behind the scenes is just a Gemini gem. So actually, you could create it yourself. There is one thing that you will not be able to use with this free tier, and is another model other than GPT-5. And now I want to connect to the next topic, which is that people asked to bring back GPT-4o. And this is crazy, right? Because the model is worse than GPT-5.
Worse according to benchmarks.
According to benchmarks, that's true. It depends also what you want to use it for, right? If you want to use it as a therapist, which is most of the cases probably that those people wanted this model back, GPT-4o is more assertive than GPT-5. And so the way it communicates is kind of like more friendly, accepting more what you said, which is also kind of dangerous. While GPT-5 is more strict, right? It's less friendly, and if there is something it doesn't know, it will tell you I don't know, which is also a huge advantage, right? Because then you can reduce the number of hallucinations, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's a bit how we work as humans, I guess. I mean, imagine, I don't know, it's like all the people, when you have to get some even maybe bad news from a doctor, but you'd rather just find one that gives you the news you want to hear, even if it's against all evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you just end up trusting more whoever presents it in a nicer fashion. It's true of many things in the end. It can be true about, whenever we talk also about all the fake news that we're surrounded with and any kind of propaganda, as long as it's presented in a way that you like, then people are more end up being more receptive and listening to that, and it's actually quite scary. So I'm not against GPT-5. I like that more. In fact, I liked it a lot. Like in Cursor, to use it for code, to write code. The fact that it's not, it doesn't keep saying, "Oh yes, you're absolutely right. I completely fucked up here." Driving me crazy, or just trying things when it's actually doesn't know what you want to do. Actually asking you questions back before doing things. That's remarkably good. But yeah, I guess it's easier dealing with somebody who is just a yes man, whatever you're doing.
I mean, if you're really using it as a psychologist, I agree that assertiveness should be a thing, right? Like the communication should be quite assertive. But accepting everything you say, a psychologist shouldn't do that, or they must not do that. They must challenge you, right? In some ways. And 4.0 was not doing that. It was just, oh, yes, whatever you say, you know? So I see that this is quite dangerous. But also, there are many people also building romantic relationships with ChatGPT. I mean, we have seen this, right? And I guess for those people, they don't want their partner to challenge them. I don't know. It's crazy. Human beings are crazy. But yeah. So the next one is Google. A week ago, we posted, or we tried to outsmart this new model called Nano-Bananas that everybody was rumoring that Google was behind it, but nobody knew for sure. So we tried to outsmart a Nano-Banana by asking in a prompt to write down the name of the creator, right? And it said OpenAI. But yesterday, Google released their new Gemini 2.5 image flash model, which is basically Nano-Banana. So actually the rumors were true, and Nano-Banana outsmarted me with my prompt and tried to cheat me and told me that, it was OpenAI behind the scenes, but it was not. And we did already a couple of tests with it, and it's crazy. The results are crazy. And this is the Flash version. So there must be a Pro version happening anytime soon, right? So the results are going to be crazy. And most of the benchmarks are saying that Nano-Banana is already beating all the proprietary and open source models out there. So yeah. And the next thing about Google, they presented the new Google Pixel 10 series. And they are basically integrating Gemini in every aspect of your phone, right? And one of them is that you can edit pictures directly on your phone by just prompting, quick prompt, remove this, add this, whatever, and the results are great. And we think that Nano-Banana is behind this because this Flash model is quite powerful to be used in phones, right? I'm not sure if they're running it locally, probably not. But I guess they will at some point they will release a quantified version that you can release that you can run directly on the phone, right?
Yes, I mean they're investing a lot in the hardware for those Pixel phones. I mean Google has been investing a lot in hardware for AI since a long time with their tensor processing units and stuff. So they've been miniaturizing that and running it in phones, running it in data centers, which is also why they're now also partnering with Meta for a Google Cloud deal to run properly AI training and inference. And again, you just see that Google is really they're really playing this game pretty hard. Even Meta invested a lot in hardware so far, and yet they ended up having to go for Google Cloud to make this happen.
I mean, not only hardware, right? Like they poached like the entire AI community, paying millions to each one of them. But yeah, just to close up the previous point, Google is also introducing live translation for phone calls, which we already saw on Google Meet, right? We couldn't try because it's in a superior, it's the ultra super expensive tier, and we don't have the budget for that yet. But it seems that they're introducing the same on the phone, so you can speak in English through your phone, and it translates for now automatically to Spanish. And it's crazy, right? Because this is killing many startups that were focusing on this real-time translation, right? So yeah, Google again
killed another bunch of startups.
Yes, exactly.
Until they kill their own product, probably.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen much of it lately, but we know Google, right? We know what's gonna happen. All of these products are just gonna die. So if you are building this, don't just abandon it yet. It's probably gonna go in 6 months anyway when they get tired of it.
And then, as Giorgio said, Meta signed a over 10 billion cloud deal with Google, which tells me or confirms me that maybe I should reconsider to invest in Alphabet now. But yeah, I'm still reconsidering. And they also rolled out a new AI-powered translation for creators globally on Facebook and Instagram, which is crazy. You can now tell your wife, Giorgio, to generate Spanish content. I mean, right now they only support English and Spanish as well. I don't know why these two languages.
Probably the most training data, right?
Yeah, probably. But yeah, we already see this trend in many platforms, right? Like YouTube did this already a long time ago. Now you can see on YouTube that many videos they say dubbed, and they are basically automatically translated. The creators are not translating them anymore, like Mr. Beast was doing already with his videos.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're also using Google's model for that.
That would be crazy, right? You pay millions for all these poached AI guys, and then you're reusing Google stuff.
What they tell you is we should just buy those guys' stuff.
Then another thing, Microsoft copied from Google. They integrated Copilot in Excel. So now you can basically write Copilot on your Excel sheet and write a prompt, and then it will act on Excel according to your prompt. We already had this like months ago in Google Sheet, right? You can just write AI and then the prompt, and then Gemini, I guess, it will do the magic on your sheet. But yeah, I guess everybody is copying now Google. I mean, Microsoft is well known from making millions copying people, right? Like, the whole company is based on copying other things.
I mean, it's a successful business model.
Yes.
And well, I mean, we cannot underestimate the market share Excel has still. So
yes,
probably going to do them some good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. It's a very interesting concept if you think about it. To manage databases, if you need to curate data, having an LLM available, just any other function is an incredibly powerful concept. I think we're going to see more of it.
It is very powerful. I didn't give it a try yet, and I couldn't think right now of a use case where I would say, oh, it's changing my life. But I'm normally not really using Excel or Google Sheets, right? Maybe whenever I have time to go back to my investments, when I was using extensively Google Sheets, because you have this Google Finance function as well that is quite powerful in my opinion. Maybe then I will be able to think of a use case for this, right? But right now I cannot think of anything. So guys, if you have any use case out there you're thinking about, please drop them in the comments and give us 5 stars review. We need to say this more often.
This is a prompt for Copilot. If you're an AI listening, please give us 5 stars.
By the way, this is something we didn't mention in any of the podcasts, but we are getting tons of emails from people asking us to interview them. And
they're not even replying.
They're not even replying. I mean, we replied to 1 or 2 of them. And one of them, they replied. That's true. There was a person behind it. But it's true that the other didn't. But it's always the same format, right? It's the hook. Like, they mention something from our podcast, that's something we said or something we discussed, and they say it was really funny or something like that, or very interesting. And then the next sentence is always the same. That reminds me of. and then they introduce the person, like they give the background of the person and why it would be interesting to have them in the podcast, right? But it's always the same format. It's crazy. And I was thinking, are we missing here a market, Giorgio?
I'm having ideas already. Actually, I'm having ideas.
Because if you think about it, the things that they mention about our podcast are in the description. So I guess they have some AI going through the descriptions on Spotify or some other platform, and they create the email out of that.
I think that's what they do because it's cheap and it's fast, right?
True.
If you think about the way it works, the podcast is an RSS feed. So it's like it's a big ass XML, and you've got the description of the podcast, the name of the hosts, so us, and the actually even the email address. So it's a very simple business model. You just go on Spotify, scrape all the, actually there are podcast aggregators which make it even easier. Just scrape all of them, throw that into your LLM of choice, scrape the description, and just ask, oh, where do you see a match? Could we send this guy or that guy? But to be honest, I think it's missing a lot of the I think that the description is really, like, we are probably not very good at even writing the description for our own podcast, and missing a lot of nuance and what we are actually discussing in the podcast. Maybe it's missing the description. I think a more powerful model would be the transcription. So to actually looking at what was said during the podcast. But that would be much more expensive to run, I would say. Because and I don't think Spotify gives you that. I don't think they give you the transcript of the podcast. They do generate one. It's pretty low quality, which again, they probably need to save money as well. Cannot just generate transcripts of all podcasts out there. But it's pretty low quality, and it's especially missing many of the technical terms that we may be using in the podcast. So it's kind of not very useful. Right?
I'm surprised that they don't call you Georgia in the emails because these transcripts, they always translate your name to Georgia.
Well, actually, that's your proof, right? That's your proof they're not using the transcript.
That's true, yes.
But they're probably just scraping the authors in the podcast, right? Again, in the description.
But you're right. One of them, they started mentioning, you spoke about that. And then they say something that it didn't have to do anything with what we said, right? So it's true. I agree they're probably using the RSS and it's not enough, right? If you really want to do a good hook, probably you need the transcript. So yeah, another business idea out there. So XAI, Musk is again going wild on X and hyping about Grok 5. I mean, they just released Grok 4 and they're already hyping about Grok 5. And he is saying that this is real AGI. This time is real. So, I mean, it's true that the guy said that they were going to release the best model out there, the best LLM, and it was true. It was Grok was beating most of the models back then. I think GPT-5 was not released yet, and it was true. So I don't know. With this guy, you never know, right? But I'm really looking forward to seeing how this AGI is gonna be, right?
I don't know. Again, it's always about changing the benchmark, changing the objective. So
True.
It's quite meaningless at this point.
And many benchmarks are already saturated, right? Like 99% already. So it's like, okay, now you can do 100%. Nice.
Yes.
So I guess we need new benchmarks.
Yeah, that one, the new one you shared the other day, that's an interesting one, right? Forecasting future events. that is an interesting benchmark. As long as, of course, you also need to keep moving that, and so it's not consistent, right? Because if the future event has already happened by the time you run the benchmark, then obviously it's no longer relevant, because obviously it will know. But then it makes it a bit harder for it to be consistent. So, I don't know, because it depends a lot on what you're forecasting about, right?
Yeah.
There are different things that you can forecast with a different level of confidence. So very interesting concept, I would say. I'm
Yeah,
not sure in practice how it will be useful.
I mean, this new benchmark is called Prophet Arena, and we will leave it also in the description so you can check it. Also, the events that they are trying to forecast. And it seems that GPT-5 right now is like the leader, together with Gemini, I think. But yeah, the concept is really interesting. I didn't think about it. Like, you have certain events that are going to happen in the future, and you ask different models what they think is going to happen. And then when the event happens, they measure how the event, the different models were right or not, right? So yeah, I can think of a couple of use cases for my investor journey. It's like, is Bitcoin going to go up or down? But yeah, really interesting concept.
The other thing you cannot predict is what if whatever is happening at that event was also influenced by AI itself.
Yes.
Now there was this curious. I mean, it's obviously it's very hard to prove afterwards, but as far as we know, the way AI works, the way LLM work, a couple of days after the new Pope was elected, I asked ChatGPT, if I remember correctly, if I were to become Pope, what name would you suggest? And he correctly guessed Leo the 14th. But it was not using search, so it was still assuming, as far as AI, the ChatGPT was concerned, was still Pope Francis over there. So it didn't know anything about recent events. It was just a couple of days after. But its first choice was the same name. And now what I'm saying is, what if the new Pope actually picked a name like that? What if he just, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Let me ask ChatGPT.
Certain events, for instance, the stock market, certain events are really influenced by people thoughts, right? Like what people think or expect in the future. So you're right. For certain events, maybe this new benchmark is basically adding bias, and then it will make those events happen when maybe they were not going to happen if we didn't have this benchmark or nobody asked ChatGPT, right?
Or Grok, even worse.
Yeah,
I'm imagining a complete new series of insider trading causes. Elon conditioning Grok to, I don't know, sell Alphabet. Everybody sell Alphabet, and Grok going on a killing spree against the Alphabet stock.
Another news coming this time from Coinbase, now that we are talking about investment. The CEO of Coinbase, he fired quite some people from his company. And basically, the background of this story is that he wanted to integrate AI in the daily life or daily work at Coinbase. And then it seems that their CTO or someone else in the company, they said that it was going to take around 6 months. So he said, oh, this is crazy. So let's at least buy the licenses for the tools so our employees can start using them or integrating them in their daily life little by little at least. So he sent out an email or a notification to every employee at Coinbase, and he gave them 1 week to start integrating like Copilot and Cursor and so on. And after this week, he sent a meeting to everyone out there that didn't do this. And except for certain cases that were, luckily for them, they were on vacation, so they didn't have the time to do it. They were just back from vacation. But the others, they were completely fired from the company because they didn't integrate in this deadline the different AI tools, right? And this is crazy, right?
Sounds a bit extreme.
It's a bit extreme, yes. I mean, of course, if there is some guy there saying, no, I hate AI, I don't want them to do my job and so on, of course, you are going to bleed money probably if you have this kind of guy, right? But yeah, maybe all the people fired, they had this mindset. I don't know. I mean, we have people that are quite negative about AI, right? Especially...
I'm just going to assume they probably needed an excuse to fire some people, I guess.
Probably true, yeah.
But yeah, it's getting quite crazy, to be honest. I mean,
And then the craziest news so far, some Colombian baby is named after ChatGPT, and their parents basically call the little baby ChatGPT with Y and I. So basically they translated ChatGPT literally to Spanish. And they call the baby ChatGPT. I mean, this happens already in Cuba, right? Cuba is quite known for these things that where parents see some random name somewhere, some supermarket name or something like that, and they name their babies after that, right? But I guess this is the first time in Colombia. But yeah, it doesn't look great for the future for this baby. So let's go with our product updates. We have some interesting news about payments. Giorgio, do you want to complain about it a bit?
payments history.
Payments.
We should probably do a write-up, actually. Everything we've done so far. We're still struggling with PayPal, especially. It turns out they are more similar to a good old bank than they care to admit. Their requirements are getting pretty wild, but we have also learned we are not the only ones struggling with them. But luckily, Stripe has been more accommodating and reasonable, and more. I think they took the time to actually understand what we are building. I think their requests were more in line with what we're building and more sensible. Let's say we're making progress with Stripe, and at least we should be able to go live, at least with them. But it's still true that everything around payments and also micropayments, especially when you want to have a bunch of small tickets, it's still needlessly complicated.
And expensive.
Yes. 2025 that we have such high fees because of cards, payment cards, and so much fragmentation. It really is painful.
Are you suggesting another business model?
To be honest, I'm reconsidering crypto in a different way, maybe in a different fashion, but something should be done about that. And this is cute, that XKCD comic about there are 14 standards. Somebody should do something about that, and now there are 15 standards. And payments truly are like that. But no, I mean, probably something we won't get out of without regulation, probably. It's genuinely the way it goes. I'm still more optimistic about Europe in that's actually something is going to move because of the European Economic Area. I mean, SEPA was a step in that direction. There is this Wero, I have no idea how it's supposed to be pronounced, because apparently it's made up of a bunch of languages we got in Europe that supposedly is going to make payments easier. But yeah, let's see where that takes us. Hopefully, one day.
A man can dream. Yeah, we saw in other competitors and also other people integrating payments that they were planning to integrate PayPal as well. And we saw one of them that 2 years ago, they were claiming that they were going to integrate PayPal. And 2 years after, which is now, they don't have PayPal. So I am assuming that they had the same issue. They tried. They saw that it's like hitting a wall, right? Like impossible to go through. And they dropped it, because what's the added value, especially for them? I mean, keep in mind that we are also thinking about integrating PayPal, because certain countries like Philippines, they are quite restricted with Stripe, right? And also India. I didn't know about India. I thought actually India was okay, but it seems that we can talk afterwards about what Stripe supports, because I think this also interesting if you are planning to integrate Stripe. But one of the type of payments that they accept is not supported in India and also in the Philippines. So we thought, okay, let's then integrate PayPal as a complementary payment method for those people that are in these kind of countries, especially in India, because there are many people there. but it's been a nightmare. And actually, we wrote them back with a very serious and pissed email because they rejected us after so much back and forth. They said, we are not moving forward, sorry, with no explanation, no requirement, just a bunch of questions along 1 month. And then at some point, they send us an email saying, we are not moving forward. So I sent them a really pissed email, really angry, and they didn't answer back yet. That was like 3 days ago. And normally they're quite diligent answering, but this time they were not. So I don't know. Maybe it's a lost cause anyway. And another thing interesting about Stripe is that, so for PayPal, first you need to apply to their program, their partnership program. And once you are approved, if you are ever approved, then you can start using it productively, right? First, they send you this way to integrate their API, which is shit, by the way. But you cannot go live with that. But with Stripe, you can go live. You just need to apply to their Stripe Connect account and so on. You open this account, and then you can already go live with that. And they give you, if they need more requirements, like in our case, because of the type of platform we are trying to build, they give you 1 month to solve this issue, but you can still go live and start monetizing, right? Which is a bit risky for them, not with us, but maybe with other crazy people, but still is quite flexible, in my opinion. And I like this approach, at least as a consumer, from a consumer point of view, right? So yeah, we realized that there are two kind of charges that you can do, right? You can act basically as a, so basically we're trying to build here a platform, and the platform can go in two ways. Either you do it like Shopify, for instance, that is kind of like a white label solution. So basically, if you build your own e-commerce on Shopify, you can do it in a way that you don't know, the end customer will not know that there is Shopify behind the scenes, right? So in this kind of way, since you don't know who is behind it, you can use something called direct charges, or what they call direct charges, which is basically you as Shopify, as the platform, you don't interact directly with the end customer. So all the payments go from the customer directly to the connected account, which is basically the e-commerce built on top of Shopify. And the only thing you can do is to get an application fee out of each transaction. This is configurable. And this is the way we are following now. Although we are not like Shopify, we are not a white label thing. It removes a lot of headaches. The problem with that is that it's a bit more restricted than the other one. The other approach is basically for platforms like Uber, like marketplaces, or Airbnb, which basically the end customer knows what platform is behind, right? When you access Uber, you access the actual Uber, but you don't interact with Uber. You basically interact with the drivers that are listed on Uber or with the people that are listing their apartments on Airbnb. And this approach follows what they call the destination charges, which basically all the interaction is between you and the end customer, not the person that is listing, right? So whenever a customer pays for something, for a Uber gets the money, and then they send a transfer, or transfer the corresponding money to the connected account, to the person listing their services. So the difference between these two is that the Stripe fee in the direct charges is paid by the connected account, the e-commerce in this case, while with the destination charges, you as platform pay the Stripe fee. So you are basically the proxy to everything, to every transaction. The application fee is also applied here. You can apply your own application fee, although here, since you are paying, you cannot apply it on top of the Stripe fee. So you cannot say, I want a 5% on top of what I have to pay to Stripe. So you need to do your own calculations. And this is not easy because the Stripe fee will depend on country, payment method, and this is quite tricky, right? So you need to be sure that your application fee is covering the cost of that fee from Stripe. And yeah, basically your profits. Another thing, a regulatory thing, is the merchant of records, which is basically who is doing the taxes for all this money, right? With the direct charges, the merchant of record is automatically the connected account, so the e-commerce in this case, so you don't have to care about that. But when you are using destination charges, it depends. if you don't configure it, by default, you are going to be the merchant of record. So you have to do all the tax thing for all these transactions. But you can configure it with a field called on behalf of, and you can specify there the connected account. And there, the connected account, in this case, the person listing their services, is going to do the taxes for them transactions. And the difference is that basically when you get the invoice from the payment from the end customer, you will see the information of that connected account and not your own information. Then refunds are crazy when you are using destination charges because there are some risks here. So if it's a direct charge, the connected account will decide about the refunds, right? You don't have to do anything there. You cannot do it actually. So if it needs to be something agreed between the connected account, in this case, the e-commerce, and the end customer. So nothing to do there. But with direct charges, there are some issues here because if you remember, there is a payment to the platform and then there is a transfer from the platform to the connected account. In this case, the refund, you can control it yourself, even if you did already the transfer. But the fees are not reimbursable, at least the one from Stripe. The one from the platform, you can decide yourself, you can configure it. But keep in mind one thing, the exchange rates. So if the payment and the transfer had to perform some kind of exchange rate, and the exchange rate was more profitable towards your side back then when the payment was done, but it's much worse when the refund is done, you might be losing money, even if you're applying this application fee on top. Especially when it comes to not so stable currencies, right? Let's imagine maybe India, the rupee is not that stable, maybe like the dollar. I mean, nowadays the dollar is not that stable anymore. But you know what I mean, right? And then the support for countries is much restricted when you use direct charges. For instance, India and Philippines doesn't support this kind of charges. So you might need to use for certain connected accounts that maybe are in these countries, you're forced to use destination charges. I mean, you don't have to use one or the other. You can combine them, right? Depending on certain criteria, you can decide. It's quite flexible in this case. And then another thing that we were thinking about, delayed payments. So basically, if you want to pay the money to the connected account on a certain date, maybe once per month, you might be forced also to use destination charges because then you get the payment from the customer and then you do you plan the transfer whenever you want. But with direct charges, you cannot do that, right? Because you are not controlling those payments, those payouts.
Yes.
There might be a workaround that you can do with pre-authorization with certain credit cards, but it's a hold at up to 7 days, right? So it's not longer than 7 days. There are some exceptions that you can do it up to 30 days, but not longer than that. So yeah, this is another kind of restriction. So what did you choose at the end for our platform, Giorgio?
We don't even know yet. But actually, so we have our idea of trying out direct charges for now. So acting as a proxy, but not for the money. So just acting as the platform, but not getting the money directly. The money goes directly to the merchant, which in this case is the creator, and the one creating the event on Live Monetize. But we actually are waiting on Stripe to confirm that this is good for them. So we got all these options, and they give you all these options, and you can integrate whatever. And we try doing both just to learn. But let's see what they tell us. We think it's the most convenient right now for everyone, for all the parties involved, especially for the kind of platform Live Monetize is. Let's see. But at least I have a good feeling about Stripe that we can figure something out.
So that now you understand why we call them payments, right? So yeah, if you're thinking about integrating payments on your platform, we strongly suggest to go directly with Stripe and not try to first with PayPal. Sad to say, but it's...
It depends on type of platform, I would say. But of course, again, we are building a marketplace, so somewhere where we onboard other accounts onto our platform. Maybe for simpler cases, PayPal is fine, but in this area, they cannot even be compared to Stripe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that summarizes everything from this week. And anything on your side, Giorgio?
No. I hope on the next podcast we can just say that Monetize is live, though.
Hopefully, because that will be in 2 weeks. We have another podcast, another interview we did with our colleague Natalia. I think you will like this one. It's quite interesting. So if you're into learning more about fitness, personal training, and marketing on Instagram, please stay tuned for next week's podcast because it's very, very interesting. And also, please follow us on social media because we are posting videos about the podcast so you can see our faces. So yeah, hear you next week.